Today, we're diving into a really personal and powerful essay. It's about the lasting mark that childhood leaves on us. Now, it is a tough story for sure, but it's also this incredible exploration of trauma, memory, and what it really truly means to heal. The story kicks off with an idea that I think most of us can relate to. This idea of a mother as this almost sacred figure, someone who represents nurture, safety, and unconditional love. That's the backdrop, right? That's the ideal that we're all familiar with. And boom, right there, that's the pivot. With just a handful of words, the author completely separates his story from that ideal. That one word, different, just kind of hangs there, and it opens up this whole experience that challenges everything we think we know about that bond. So, let's get into it. What exactly made this bond so unforgettable and so different? Well, it all started with why the author was born, and a deep, powerful wish that would end up shaping his entire childhood. So here's where it all starts. The author was born into this gap between what his mother wanted and what she got. And as the third son, he wasn't just another baby boy, he was another painful reminder of something she longed for but didn't have. And wow, the way the author puts it here is just devastating. Not a person, not even a son, a toy. It just perfectly captures that feeling of being an object, something to be played with and manipulated to fulfill her own needs, rather than a child to be raised. And, this feeling of being a toy, it wasn't just some internal thing he was dealing with. It led to some very real, very specific actions that planted these deep seeds of confusion about who he was, right from a very, very young age. I mean, look at this. These weren't just innocent games played at home. His mother's actions kept escalating, from dressing him up in private to, unbelievably, putting him on a public stage and presenting him as a girl. For a little kid, that's not just confusing, it's deeply, publicly humiliating. And the result of all this? That single word, freezing. It's such a classic response to trauma, right? That feeling of being totally powerless, just shutting down in the face of overwhelming fear and shame. And that word, again, it tells you this wasn't a one-off thing. This was his reality. And let's be clear, this wasn't just some harmless fun. Psychologically speaking, our early childhood is when we build the absolute foundation of who we are. So when a parent, the one person who's supposed to make you feel safe, creates confusion and fear instead, well, the damage can be huge. And for the author, this emotional chaos was about to get a whole lot worse. Okay, so now we get to a moment that really changes everything. The story makes a sharp turn here. From that emotional confusion to a single defining day of physical trauma, a day that started with a lie and spiraled into an absolutely unimaginable punishment. Just look at how fast this all goes down. It begins with a false accusation at a new school. That leads to a day of public shaming by his teacher. And by the end of the day, the one person who should have been his safe harbor becomes the source of his greatest terror. He had literally nowhere to turn. And this right here, this is the heart of the betrayal. There were no questions, no what happened, not even a moment of hesitation. The accusation was just accepted, and the sentence was carried out without giving him any chance at all to tell his side of the story. The author's words here are so direct because they have to be. The truth of this moment doesn't need any extra drama. The punishment wasn't just harsh, it was torture, an act of just unimaginable cruelty against a small child. In the horror, it didn't even stop there. The aftermath was about complete and total abandonment. He was in pain, all alone, and then literally thrown out of his own home, left naked and vulnerable by the gate, waiting for his dad to get home from work. You see, an event like that doesn't just end when the physical pain goes away. It creates these echoes. It completely changes the landscape of a person's inner world, and it ends up shaping their fears and their relationships for the rest of their lives. And this is such a powerful example of how trauma can just flip everything on its head. You know that common saying about men looking for partners who are like their mothers? Well, for him, it was the exact opposite. His experiences created this deep, guiding fear of ever repeating that kind of relationship. So in the end, this is what his childhood left him with. Not just memories, but a foundation built on fear, on confusion, and on a profound emotional distance from the one person who should have been the closest to him. But here's the thing. This isn't just a story about trauma. It's about what comes after.
And the most powerful part of this whole essay is what he does next. It's a journey toward healing that lands in a place that's both shocking and, honestly, deeply inspiring. It's about way more than just surviving.
And this is a really important point he makes. He's clear that telling this story isn't about getting revenge. It's about taking his own story back. It's about finally acknowledging the truth of what happened, because you can't even begin to heal until you can face that truth. And then comes the part of the story that is just, well, it's pretty astonishing. After everything he went through, everything she did, he made the choice not to abandon his mother, but to become her caregiver. It shows a level of grace that is just mind-blowing. And really, that's the core of it all, isn't it? For the author, the victory wasn't just that he survived. It was that he made an active, conscious choice to respond with compassion in a situation where he was shown none. That's where his real strength comes from. So we're left with this powerful final thought. Healing doesn't mean you forget. It doesn't mean the past just vanishes. The scar is still there. It's permanent, a reminder of the pain, but he's transformed it into something instructive, something that's become a source of wisdom and strength. You know, the author's story is such a profound reminder that our earliest experiences, they never really leave us. They become a part of our wiring. And it really leaves us with a big question to think about. What echoes from our own pasts are still shaping the people we are today?